delay. So we do the delay dance.
Yeah.
Welcome. I'm so glad that you decided to join me for a conversation. You and I have had so many good conversations privately,
Yeah,
and I'm like, we need to start sharing this.
absolutely. And thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. So, why don't you just go ahead, because I know some people may know you, some people may know me that see this. I just want to do like quick introductions. So, would you mind sharing with our audience who you are?
Sure. So my name is Silke Harvey. I'm the CEO of Inner Hippie Books. I'm an international best-selling author, a writing coach. I'm a backpacker and travel blogger, an energy healer, Reiki master, chakra dancing practitioner, and a bass player. So that's me in a nutshell.
Wow. Talk about like multi passionate.
Hmm.
You and I have that in common.
Yeah.
So, I'm Safrianna Lughna, the Queer Spirit Guide. I'm a quantum creatrix, intuitive healer, and divine channel. And I'm co founder of Living Luna, which is a brand that is centered on uplifting the others of the world. And we really just serve mostly marginalized people, but anyone that is an ally in building their best life. So that's what I'm all about. And I love that you, Silke, are, this writing coach and author yourself, and you're constantly kind of weaving tales. What got you into the publishing and like writing editing world? I'm just really curious.
Um, it was completely by chance. It was one of them chances that are not a chance and that were meant to happen. So about a year and a half ago, I was starting to write my memoirs, and I was just researching how you can go about self-publishing these days, because
Mm,
I didn't have a clue. I'm still from the old generation where publishing means you go and find yourself a publisher, go knocking on doors, get
yep.
rejected for the next 20 years.
Yep.
So the idea of self-publishing, Amazon and all that really appealed to me rather than going through all that hard process.
Mm,
So well, on my travels, on my research, I came across Adriana Monique Alvarez on the internet, and she was holding a workshop about how you can start your own publishing company. Now, I joined the workshop. I just listened for about 10 seconds and thought, wow, I need to do this. This is it. I found what I was looking for. And I just joined up to her program, started my publishing company, and then took it from there.
wow, that's so cool, because the publisher that I work with, I call her my soul publisher, is Jess Verrill, and Jess Verrill also mentored with
Yeah.
Adriana Monique
Hmm.
Alvarez, AMA Publishing. It's so cool to see the worlds kind of converge. And what I love about this new movement and like the sort of self-publishing and like small publishing company movement is like, you get to find your soul publisher. You get to literally say, you're the person I want to work with, and like I want to bring my story to life with you, because you're this person that I resonate with deeply. And that is, it's like, it's just so exciting to me. I've wanted to be an author since, I mean, I literally, whenever I tell the story, I go back to like second grade, and we
Hmm.
published these little books, and like they had this company come in and like spiral bound our little booklets that we made. And like I held that book in my hand and I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. I just want to write books.
Yeah.
And then, I thought about the traditional publishing world and the rejections and how much creative wounding I already had. And I was just like, I don't want to do it. So what's that experience like for you of getting to really like walk someone through the process of birthing their creation?
Uh, I find it's awesome. Until I started my publishing company, I wasn't really into coaching all that much. But then I realized when the first group of women came in for my first multi author book, obviously coaching became part of the package. And I just found through all my experience, years and years of being a translator, working with linguistics, editing, proofreading, I
Mm-hmm.
had a deep understanding of the writing process, something that I never really thought about, because when you're like a translator and you're just working in the corporate world, you don't really think much about all the skills behind it all. It's just something
Yeah.
you do for a living. So when I started working with my first batch of women, I realized that every time I said something, it was completely like new to them. I was actually telling them something and teaching them something,
Mm.
something that I personally always thought was like natural to me. I never thought about it. And I guess that's what your zone of genius is, the thing that you don't think about, that everybody
Yep.
else hasn't got a clue.
Yep.
So I stumbled across my zone of genius and realized that my specific knack is to get women to get over their writer's block and get their first ideas and get the motivation to get started. So I developed a little program where I help women to actually write their story for my book in 24 hours. And
Wow.
several of them actually did it, because it's all about, I found it's all about the mindset, the motivation, and getting that very first idea and basically jumping over your own shadow
Yeah.
that keeps telling you that you're not good enough to get started.
Oh my gosh, that's so true, because um, usually when I tell people this, they're like, holy how, what? I entered a 3-day novel writing contest. I think it was back in it was 2020, because I remember I was quarantined while I was writing it. And I pushed out like a 50,000 word novel in 3 days, no editing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a beautiful first draft. Like, it was
Yeah.
so good. And now, it's been 3 years, but now I'm coming back around to actually doing the developmental editing now. But like, sometimes we need that little jolt, that kickstart
Mm-hmm.
of any creative project. I love how you said that, like jumping over your shadows,
Yeah.
because there's a time and a place for shadow work. I'm currently a trauma therapist in the midst of transitioning out. So I know shadow work like inside and out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what my wheelhouse has been, trauma, for the last decade. And there's a time and a place to unpack all of that and talk through it and process it. But if it's holding us back from our dreams, sometimes we just do need to take that leap and like
Mm-hmm.
rip a Band-Aid off and do something brave.
Yes.
What would you say is the bravest thing that you've done that's been like a ripping off a Band-Aid for you?
Bravest thing I've done.
I know, I like to ask
Where do I start?
questions.
Where do I start? Different things at different stages of my life, I guess. One was buying a house in Bulgaria on eBay without ever seeing it. I'm just placing a bid on it and seeing how it goes and where it takes me.
Did it end okay?
Yeah, the house is almost finished. I've got to go back this year, and it's almost ready to become a retreat center.
Wow, that is wild.
Yeah, that was one wild one. On slightly sort of more serious note, I think the bravest thing I've ever done is this January, when I actually helped transition my mum over the Rainbow Bridge. I never thought I could do that, but I actually was in the hospital with her. I actually got into bed with her and cuddled her to sleep.
Oh,
I never thought I could do anything like that, but there I was.
there you
There I was
were. That is, so she passed while you were there with
in my
her
arms.
in your arms.
I was
Wow,
singing
that's,
to her.
I mean, what a profound moment that, like, I view life in of itself as kind of poetry, right? Like, we're
Mm-hmm.
living these poems and we're living these stories, and each of us has this beautiful story. And like, the stunning, absolute devastation of that moment, I'm sure, and yet the beauty, who gets to say, my mother passed in my arms while I sang her over the bridge. Like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
getting such goosebumps. Like, just the service, the heart service of that is so profound. And I mean, I'm sure that was only January, like that's probably still processing for you.
Oh yeah.
But that's going to be
Definitely.
such a immense part of like your journey and your story, and so formative just in the rest of your life, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And definitely, I think the most brave moment.
Yeah. Yeah. To be able to overcome all of the, we're so, I'm generalizing when I say we here, as a
Mm.
species, we're so afraid of death. We're so afraid of
Yeah.
that transition. We're so afraid of what that means. And, you know, I think all of us have that part of us that's a little bit, gripping onto
Hmm.
life. And
Hmm.
for you to be able to be with that part of you and
Yeah.
crawl into that bed because someone outside of you needed that assistance
Yeah.
is
Because I
wow.
did have the choice. The nurse did ask me if I wanted to go home and just get notified or if I wanted to stay. So I had
Wow.
the choice to run away.
Yeah. Oh, that's, I've been thinking this morning. I don't know why this has been on my mind this morning. Oh, probably because our theme for
Mm.
this episode is rebirthing our lives. And I was just saying to my wife this morning, like, oh, I can't wait for this next rebirth. Because I'm sort of in the pregnancy stage of this next journey for me right
Hmm.
now, which is getting out of the therapy world. And then, of course, that got me thinking about real pregnancy because I don't talk about it a lot, but I have lost a child. And so I was thinking about that this morning. And one of the bravest things I ever did was probably holding my daughter
Mm.
after she passed. So just deep resonance with you in this, like you were at that end of life and I
Yeah.
was experiencing sort of that like beginning and end of life at the same time. And
Yeah. I get you all together because I actually waited almost quarter of an hour before I told the nurses, just
oh,
kept holding her. So
yeah,
I know what it is. I know what it feels like.
yeah, like just to be in that, it's like a liminal moment. It's a liminal space that so few people acknowledge, talk about, process, right? Like some of us have been in those situations and then we're just like, I'm never going to talk about this again.
Yeah.
It's too
But
painful.
what a waste. Because there's so much beauty and so much learning in those moments as well.
Yes, absolutely. So, these moments of beauty, they inform so much of our creativity too. And
Hmm.
you've done a lot of like travel blogging and you're writing. I know you're working on a project that's all about fearless female travelers. And what got you into that particular niche of like wanting to encourage other women to travel and get out of, kind of get out of their shells? Because I think it's an important
Hmm.
message.
Um, Actually, I've traveled solo most of my adult life. I started when I was 17, backpacking through Europe. And even whilst I was married, I always used to go off on my own for a few like days or even weeks at a time. So I've been a solo traveler all my life, and I wouldn't want to miss it for the world.
Yeah. And so many women, especially, are terrified to travel.
Totally, totally. I mean, last year in October, I went on a 6-week trip to the USA, where basically I bought a train ticket for the Amtrak, where you've got unlimited travel for 4 weeks. I got my plane ticket, and that was it. I had a subscription to couch surfing, and I figured the rest out as I actually got there.
Wow, that
So,
is so cool.
yep. So the thing that amazed me though was when I announced what I was doing, I had this most amazing reaction. Most of my male friends on Facebook went, "Hey, yay, whoa, go for it, girl. We want to see all the pictures, videos." And then on the other side, my inbox exploded with messages from women reaching from completely terrified and almost begging me not to go to getting downright abusive and telling me that I'm a stupid so and so for even attempting to go and risking my life in such a manner.
Wow. And first of all, who has the right to tell you how you live your life? But Yeah, anytime someone comes at me with fear, criticism, or judgment now after my personal work, I know that it's, them projecting their
Absolutely.
worry. And yeah, this year, well, this not calendar year, but this last chronological year is really the first time I've started traveling, and I haven't done too much alone yet. I've traveled just a couple little solo retreats, usually within a couple hour drive that I can go to by myself and disappear into the woods for a while. But I had to overcome my fear of flying to be able to go out west and meet with the Body of Nine community. And the amount of fear. I was like cripplingly scared to get on that plane because I'd been afraid my whole life. And I think that I don't know why I was afraid. Like, I didn't hear any terrible messages about planes. I'm a Gemini, and I think I remember reading somewhere when I was younger that like Geminis are afraid of flight, and I don't know if that just stuck with me or what. But yeah, like the amount of fear that can be there, I think some people don't even realize, right? And like, you didn't necessarily have enough fear to hold you back from the travels. Whether the fear was there or not, you weren't letting it lead the way. But there are so many people, especially women, who feel like they have no choice but to let fear lead the way because of how bad society is right now.
Well, for myself, I'm really lucky. I have no fear at all of traveling. I literally just go. I don't even think about it. I book a ticket and just go for it. But I know as well from my last experience that that's not the norm, that most women are actually scared.
Yeah.
And that's what gave me the idea to work on my book, The Fearless Female Travelers, because I want to get women to realize that there's nothing to worry about, that it's perfectly safe, it's fun, and it's really empowering to actually go out there and travel. Because when you're traveling on your own, you've got to have your own wits about you, you're responsible for yourself. But on the other side, also, you can do entirely what you want, no compromises. You can hit the restaurant of your choice. If you want to go for an Italian, you don't have to worry about that your other half wants to go Chinese. It's complete freedom, and that's what's so nice about it.
Yeah. And I'm curious, because you've had so many people reach out to you about this, and you've written, like, if there was a woman who is afraid and she's like, I'm ready to take the leap, I want to travel on my own, but she does have that fear there, what might you suggest, like, just to help her feel safer? Is there stuff that you would tell her to pack, or like stuff that you feel like people should take with them, or, just have so that they have that peace of mind and can enjoy themselves?
Well, first of all, if somebody has never traveled solo before and is really scared, I probably would suggest joining some form of group, because that's traveling on your own, because you will have to get to the place by yourself. You're not traveling on the plane by yourself, but then at least you have the security of other people being there. Or if you don't want to travel in group, find yourself a local guide. Do something where you're still connecting with other people, just to ease you into that idea of going by yourself. But apart from that, the most important thing really is just to have a real good dose of common sense, because all these fears that women have about things that are dangerous, yes, they do exist. Of course, I mean, in our world, there are guns, there are dangerous places. But I always say that these dangerous places exist whether you're male or female. I could lead you down some alleyways in London right now where you would probably get bumped on the head, but that has nothing to do with your gender at all. So I always say just take the usual precautions that you would expect. Inform yourself about a place. Don't hit downtown if you know that downtown is where all the trouble is hanging out.
There are several downtowns locally that I would not go to alone.
Exactly. Just be aware, and I always have my main tip. I never ever travel with a handbag being a woman. because
Mm.
that's the very first thing that will be snatched from you or even used as a weapon against you.
Yeah.
So I keep everything on my body. I buy myself a good old-fashioned travel pouch that hangs either around my neck or around the bra into my trousers, where all the important documents are in. So nobody sees where your documents are and nobody can steal them either. And just take a few very basic general precautions like that, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think that's such a like the common sense is a huge piece. You know, I don't carry a purse anymore. I carry like a little mini backpack that goes over, over both shoulders. It's looped around both arms and it's fully zipped to the side. It's small. Like
Yeah.
just thinking about it's almost this practice in self-sustainability, right? Like
Mhm.
I have everything I need right here instead
Yes.
of like, oh, I need this and I need this and I need this and I need to lug around 5 billion pounds of luggage and, have my whole life with me to feel safe. No, like establishing that felt safety in yourself. And yeah, like absolutely. There's so many places to be unsafe in the world.
Yeah.
You just gotta have some common sense. Thank you for that. That's really good advice. And I think some of it's even relevant to probably not not fear-filled women travelers, but just everybody. Like common sense tips for traveling so that you can feel secure.
Yep.
So, I want to go back to our theme a little bit, if that's all right,
Yeah, of course.
with rebirth, because I know your mother just passed and you've had a lot of like life stuff coming up to really usher you into this new era of your life. What does rebirth mean to you? And how many times would you say you've been reborn at this point in your life? Could you even say?
Uh, phew, I've gone through a lot of rebirth because to me, rebirth means every time you fundamentally change something about your life.
Hmm.
I mean, like at the moment, there is a real fundamental cut happening because just 2 days after I got the news that my mum will be passing within the next week, my husband of 31 years decided to leave me for a woman he's been with for 2 years behind my back. So he still hasn't spoken to me. That I got one line in Facebook Messenger about the whole thing. So it's definitely a big cut in my life,
Absolutely.
meaning that apart from the house that I live in, which is mine and been like decorated by me and everything, nothing else in my life is what it was.
Yeah.
Everything has changed completely. So and then that's a very profound sort of rebirthing process because of course there's all the pain of leaving the old behind, but on the other side there's also the excitement of all the new opportunities because the world has been wiped clean like a blank slate, and it's for me to now paint a new canvas.
Yeah.
So that's the rebirthing process, and I've gone through several in my life. I mean, when we were married, we were a bit nomadic. We were musicians, and we never used to stay in one place very long. Every 2 or 3 years, we would pack up and move somewhere else again. So every time you move to a different area, it's a little rebirth in itself because
Absolutely.
you're having to just restart again and redo everything again. So yeah, I've gone through my fair share of rebirths.
Yeah. That fundamental change about, something in your life, something about you. It's a really great way to put it. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, like people being afraid of death, I think people are afraid of rebirth too, because we get so attached to who we are, who we think we are.
Mhm.
One of my friends, spiritual fellows, I don't even know what to call her, Chayanati, she just posted something this morning that I shared because I just thought it was so profound. She was talking about the current sort of like narratives in the world going around about gender and like people trying to tear down the trans community and drag queens in this. And she's like, look, I'm paraphrasing here. She puts it way more, beautifully and poetically. But basically, look, if you're busy trying to argue how someone else should be in their life, that probably means you're struggling with your own, and like the impermanence of your own life, your own identity, your own beliefs, because we're always changing. We're constantly changing. We're constantly being reborn, right? Like we just had Easter, and Easter is this it's literally a rebirth holiday, this idea that Christ rose from the dead, was reborn into this new life. Like that's every day of our lives. Every day the sun rises again, and it's an opportunity to start over in some way, and we get to decide and empower ourselves. What choice are we going to make? And then there's these bigger kick in the ass rebirths when our husbands, cheat on us and leave us, and been there, done that too. Like the sort of rebirths that are not our choice, and then there's rebirths that are our choice, and we're all going to have both. We're all going to have both. So how do we want to use those to grow ourselves and be our best selves? So now that you have this blank slate, you're like, you are free and clear to kind of like live your life the way you want to, with, again, the traveling. You don't have to argue about what's for dinner right now. You just get to decide what you're going to do. What is this new chapter of life bringing for you?
More travel. And specifically, my husband left behind everything, and that includes a classic Land Rover. So I have decided that I'm going to focus all my energy on traveling around Europe in a classic Land Rover with my dog, and make that a travel blog and my main source of income.
I love that. What kind of dog do you have?
A Romanian rescue. She's looking a little bit like an Alsatian, but she's pitch black.
Okay.
Got big ears.
Oh, so you and your doggo companion just riding around, living your best life and blogging. Like, what a dream.
Yeah, and that's what I'm aiming for. I mean, I'm still in the pregnancy stage, if you want to call it that, because the same Land Rover needs quite a few repairs until it's actually ready for it. But the garage has been like found, and it's going to happen sometime this month. So by the summer, the car will be ready, and I'm hitting the road.
That is amazing. That's so exciting. A lot of my future dream, when I I've been doing a lot of thinking these last couple of weeks, really, about the life that I am rebirthing, because March is creatrix season. So every March, that's when the rebirth happens for me. That's when the new pregnancy comes along, and like I'm kind of figuring out where I'm going to go from here. And this year I'm leaving therapy. I'm dropping. I don't want to interface with the medical system anymore in the way that it is. I'm fine with being on sort of the edge of it and trying to help reform it, but I don't want anything to do with this, like having to diagnose people and treat them like there's something wrong with them, when really it's trauma. It's trauma. That's my final answer. So I'm stepping back from that, and then I'm like, well, oh my gosh, who am I? What am I? What am I going to do? And it really allowed those younger parts of me who just wanted to be the author to kind of like come swimming back up to the surface, and they're like, hello, here I am. And my dream life has now become being here in my house, my beautiful house. It's my first home. We've painted it, we've decorated it. It's, it's our beautiful sanctuary. But I want an RV, and I want to travel from state park to state park, and I want to write books. I just want to like go out on the road, drive to my next destination, sit in the woods, make a little campfire, and write stories. Like that is
cool.
That's my dream. And I'm going to make it happen, whether it's the full-time or super part-time. I don't know yet, but I am holding the vision of that RV. It's going to happen somehow.
Cool. We need to hitch up virtually on the road somewhere.
We little virtual travel writing pods. That could be a cool
Yes, something
idea.
like that. You and your RV in the woods, and me in my Land Rover somewhere on a cliff.
Oh no, no cliffs for me. Okay, like that's we lived with roommates right before we got this house, and they bought this beautiful house, like very modern, literally built like on stilts on the
Hmm.
side of like a mountain hill cliff
Yeah.
thing overlooking some water. Every time a storm blew through there, I was like, the house is going to slide off the hill.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be a good idea. I mean, I live a 5 minute walk from the cliff, and that's far enough for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to go with too. Keep me away from cliffs when I'm trying to sleep. But yeah, this new era of women, of course, I think is so important to highlight, and hopefully everyone in that, because I think right now women have been the oh ooh, this is like a really juicy, probably controversial download. Um, Women as a population, if we're just looking sheer numbers, just sheer numbers, not gravity of trauma or anything like that. Women are the largest, most impacted group, right? Like we're
Yeah.
what, 50 plus percent of the population. I think that there's
Hmm.
more assigned female at birth people, but um, if just people who identified as women just started being like, I'm not living this life anymore. No, like, I'm not
Yeah.
doing this 9 to 5 culture. I'm not coming home after working 9 to 5 and then making dinner and cleaning the house and this and that, like the list goes
Yeah.
on. They say a woman's work is never done. And those kinds of sayings perpetuate this prison.
They do.
And so, what would happen if more and more women, just focusing on women right now, were able to break free from things as they have been and
Hmm.
birth this new future?
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, totally amazing. I mean, it blows your mind when you start properly thinking about it, the
Yeah.
possibilities.
Yeah. I mean, if every woman woke up today or tomorrow and was like, yeah, I'm unhooking. We're not doing that anymore. Like the world would fall apart as we know it. It would
Yep,
crumble. It would completely crumble.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because let's be honest, like nearly 90% of all work in the world is probably done by women. Because like you said, it's not just in the workplace. We go to the workplace and then we come home and then we start working at home. I mean, crazy.
Yeah.
Totally crazy.
It is. And the fact that the double standards persist, they continue to persist today in so many households in so many sneaky ways
Hmm.
that people don't even begin to realize. And the more of us that wake up and are like, I'm
Yep,
unhooking, it's not for me, the more radically and quickly we're going to collectively shift into our new way of being. So,
absolutely.
you know, thank you
Yep.
for your part and your role in empowering women's voices because it's so important.
And that's what I aim for with my company Inner Hippie Books. Every single book that I put out is written by women for women with this sole aim to empower women.
Yeah, beautiful.
Because I do believe that it's so important because uh, we're starting to get there, but it's not enough yet. There is not enough equality yet. There is like still the pay gap, the gender gaps, and all sorts of discrimination happening in the world. And until that all disappears, I won't rest. Probably won't see it in my lifetime, but I want to be part of the awakening.
Yes, you're part of this first wave of very
Mhm.
big change. I think that we've seen a lot of these little waves, especially during the hippie
Mhm.
movement. And now we're kind of coming full circle back around to it. My generation is readdressing so much of the information that we were unlocking in like the late 60s and 70s that the government, at least here in the United States, clamped down on. And
yes.
hopefully we're going to keep things open and keep things flowing. And again, like, I am the queer spirit guide. I mainly serve, queer people and their allies and polyamorous folks. But like all of the individual marginalized populations need their people to do their healing work with. And like, Silke, I love that you are specifically empowering women's voices because that's your passion. And that means that your people can find you. You're not trying to cater to everyone. And so those that can get this really great help from you are going to gravitate towards you, which is just, it's beautiful when we're not in competition.
Nobody is ever in competition. I always say competition is one of the signs of the old ways. The elbow society hasn't got any place in my head in the future because the world is big enough for everybody.
Yeah. And there's enough resources. We just need to reallocate those resources and spread them back out.
Exactly.
So, well, my brain is spinning with 1,000 ideas. Thank you for this. I mean, if you're tuning in at the end of this, because I keep seeing people kind of popping in and out. Like, if you're tuning in at the end of this, go back. There is so much good, juicy stuff in this conversation. I mean, just from the concept of death to rebirth to living the life of our dreams, like this was a beautiful conversation. So
yep, absolutely. I totally enjoyed it.
Yeah. So I'm feeling very complete because again, like my brain is swirling and I'm like, I need to go write some stuff down, I feel like. But Silke, I'd love to have you on for more conversations in the future. I think these are such important conversations for people to witness and for us to hold space for the collective, right? By having these conversations, we're holding this energy collectively for people. And I think that's what's so needed right now.
It is.
So
it's the key to unlocking the golden age, I do believe. Tell your stories, open up, show the world your feelings, and together we're going to get there.
Yes. Thank you so much. So we will say goodbye to our live audience. If you watch the replay, let us know. We would love to hear from you. And otherwise, we will catch you next time. Goodbye.